Two teenage moped riders who murdered a charity youth worker during a series of violent robberies have each been jailed for more than 20 years. Troy Thomas and Nathan Gilmany stabbed 28-year-old Abdul Samad from his iPhone. Well, with us now is Peter Kirkham, a former Detective Chief Inspector with Met Police. It's good to have you in the studio this hour, Peter. All murders are horrendous, but it's a particularly horrific 4 hours that these two sabotaged and inflicted on people, including the murder of one man, and the judge calling them the 21st century highwaymen. That's
precisely what they are. And it's really gratifying to see a judge that gets it. His comments and the strength of his sentence, he's trying to do what he can to deter this sort of crime. Unfortunately, it would have been, but for the death, it would have been a robbery, and we see sentences that are way, way inadequate when people are arrested for robbery or when officers detain them with knives preparing to go out and rob. That is when the deterrent sentences need to be there. And he also identified that pursuits are a very difficult thing for police. It's a no-win situation for them. In this particular instance, the pursuit was authorised, I suspect, because it was already known they'd committed a serious robbery and maybe even that there'd been a stabbing. And so the risk assessment took that into account. But if that hadn't been there, I'm aware every day of youths on mopeds with no registration marks, undoubtedly out to commit this sort of crime, officers trying to pursue them and being told, no, don't.
So let's talk about that in more detail, because we heard from one of the police officers who said that one of the defendants, one of the guilty party, took off his helmet.
Yep.
And normally that would then make or force the police to stop the chase. Why is that?
There's a number of factors that build into a risk assessment. The police have been persecuted by government, by the IOPC, used to be the IPCC, when something tragic happens. And there have been a number of occasions where people have been seriously injured and killed when they failed to stop for police and then have had a collision. And somehow that's the police's fault. Now, that means that the police have been very, very wary about pursuing. And so this risk assessment's come in where the risk to the people that have chosen to fail to stop is put ahead of the risk to others. We need to change that. It is the oversight of policing that is an issue.
So this is the footage, I think, of the said pursuit. And I suppose the idea is if he takes off his helmet, he thinks that the police aren't going to follow us anymore because it's too dangerous.
Yeah, that would raise the risk to them. And like I say, that has been put ahead, that has been prioritised above the risk to the public of allowing them to continue and commit crime.
We were talking to our correspondent who's outside the Old Bailey earlier. Extraordinary numbers, a 50% rise in moped crimes just this year, 60 crimes a day. I mean, this is an extreme of that, but what can the police do? What laws do they need to change in order to try and crack down on this?
If you ask me, we need to change in the law around what the definition of dangerous driving is. That could be done tomorrow. It's been being asked for 8 or 10 years. So Judge Javid has said that he will move that on, but it's out to consultation again, kicked into the long grass again. That could be done and done soon.
How will that change? How will that improve?
Well, it would give the police they'd know that they won't be prosecuted for dangerous driving just for pursuing and detaining using their vehicle to bring down fleeing mopeds. The second thing is we need to look at pursuits full stop. If we don't want the police to do them, which is great, we don't because they're dangerous, but if we also want to stop them, we're going to have deterrent sentences. Well, at the moment, failing to stop for police has got a maximum sentence of 6 months. We need to invent a pursuit offence that has got a minimum sentence of 5 years and a maximum sentence of life. Do on a big scale what this judge has done on a small scale, put in a deterrent offence and a deterrent sentence. But the government basically need to get behind the police and the concept of policing. They have undermined the police consistently for 8 years. That must stop.
And in terms of deterrence, will this help both of them getting lengthy prison sentences?
It will, but they'll say, oh, well, that's only because they murdered somebody, so if I don't do that, it won't have a major effect. The police have brought in new tactics, and they're good, but they haven't got the capacity. Smaller bikes, automated sort of mini stinger devices that they can use to puncture the tyres of power two-wheelers, specially trained officers. But the capacity is the issue. They've got to be really unlucky to find those officers with those vehicles and those tactics and that authority. The capacity is just not there. we need more police on the street. This is just one part of street crime mushrooming, and it will continue to mushroom until the government put more police on the streets.
And it's not just moped crime, it's knife crime.
It's knife crime, it's drug dealing, it's county lining, it's acid being carried. Acid's a good example, actually, because we saw very swinging deterrent sentences very early on, and that seems to have sort of deterred them, and it's gone away a little. I think knife crime is far too down the line for sentences in individual cases to have a major effect. We need to see the government putting the police back on the front foot. That means more police, more robust approach, more robust sentencing policy and support for the police, and it needs to be done tomorrow. OK, we'll leave it there. Peter Kirkham, thanks so much for joining us, former Detective Chief Inspector with the Met Police.